Yo, yo, ho, ho. What's going on in the hood? It's raining here. Whoa. What the fuck was that? All right, let's get to work. We got things to do. My power may go. I mean, we still in the kind of this hurricane. We're like in the remnants of the hurricane or whatever. I think we're just getting the tail end of it. But it's not stopped raining or howling this whole, for the last 2 days. We'll see. We'll see what's going on. In the meantime, let's get to work. We got things to do. The market's heating up. There's spec money rolling around everywhere. I mean, you guys gotta, man, there's money out there for the taking. We just gotta go out and get it. So let's go in. Let's take a look at the market indexes. Let's take a look and see if there's anything juicy on the earnings side. We are a little bit long in the tooth in the market, or we're probably due for some consolidation or pullback. You could see in general, after the 2-day dreaded, pullback, we came really back down to the 50 SMA and we popped already 20 points. And that's like actually, it's been a pretty significant move. Minus we had like one rest day. So when you only have one rest day, like you're really due for some type of PR or something out there. Pullback. We'll probably get one or some type of light consolidation. One thing to remember is like when you're in all-time highs, when we say pullback, like it's not something that where you come crashing down, right? Most likely you get like an orderly, really like, you come back like 0.5%, and you kind of grind down for a day or two. That's probably the most likely scenario, or you just go sideways. There's two ways to work off overbought conditions. One is just to go sideways via time, and the second way is a pullback via price, right? So there's two ways the stock can correct itself, time and price. Now, in the meantime, a couple things to be noteful of. Oftentimes flat days in the market can be the best days to trade, meaning you won't have a broad-based thrust in like a whole group of stocks, but what you will have is selective, very hot and juicy and tempting setups. They will follow through and you'll end up having more of like what you call a stock pickers market. And so even though we're kind of like fading off a little bit over here, I wouldn't read too much into it. In a hot market, flat days are actually the best ones, because the worst day to trade is those friggin' days like where you gap up and then you just grind and grind, right? Like that's the worst, at least for me. That's the worst day to trade. Like I hate those kind of days. A flat day or even a small pullback day will get things going. Now let's just take a look at market breadth real quick before we look and kind of see what kind of earnings plays and stuff are going around. It's very important to be in this type of market where it's been more selective, especially this year, where the leadership of the market has been very narrow, concentrated in a handful of stocks versus all stocks. What we're starting to see is, we're starting to see an increase in breakouts of recent. Yesterday was a pretty subdued day for the most part, but we are starting to see an increase in market breadth. So this is the percentage of stocks here that are above the 200-day moving average. So we're at about 51. We were at 43. So we have an increase in market breadth. The T2108 went from oversold to like now you're at 50. So you're starting to see a broad-based thrust in market breadth, which is really important because that's going to give you a much deeper look into what's happening underneath the hood of the market. So you always want to track breakouts versus breakdowns. So you can see here, see how you got very few breakdowns of recent, so when you don't have like a lot of powerful down moves, that becomes something that's really important when you start to have these ratios and these start to tick up, is telling you, okay, we're shifting from something with narrow leadership to maybe something that's a little bit broader. On top of that, it will also give you better signals on when you should be swing trading and holding stocks overnight versus when you shouldn't be swing trading and holding stocks overnight. A big part of swing trading, investing, holding stocks is knowing when you should have 4, 5, 6 positions and when you should just have 1 or 2. Because that is the difference between having like a big return and a smaller return. Oftentimes, if you're always loaded with 5, 6, 7, 10 stocks, then when the market is bleeding off, right, you really bleed off bad. But when the market is due to bleed off, if you just have 1 or 2 stocks or 3 stocks versus, right, 6, 7, 8 stocks, well, that's the difference between, right, getting smoked for 10% and, end up having a pullback in your account of 3 or 4%. And vice versa, right? When the market heats up and the market breadth heats up, having extra stocks, right? A little bit extra juice, right? Even being a little bit, right, up 100% to capacity, that will boost your returns too. And that's like the ebb and flow of how you beat market indexes, like when you're swing trading. So just something to kind of just keep mindful of as you guys are going through. Let's take a look and see what kind of earnings plays and stuff are out there. I think the big one first I want to take a look at is Zoom. Zoom is still a really bloated stock. It's about $100 billion company. We're on Zoom right now, right? And it's nice, but it doesn't really. It's at 100 billion. Who knows? A big part of this was, right, because of the work from home thing, and the work from home thing is still going on. Everybody in the world seems to be catching this Delta. My fucking neighbor got the Ronies for the 3rd time. Everyone in the world is getting this Delta, but some of the Zoom is not being able to catch up. The earnings probably just got dusted. They probably don't have earnings per se. But this is, I think, going to be something in play today. I don't think I want to we probably won't hit this right off at the open because the SSR will have triggered on it, which means like when the SSR triggers on, you can't short it on the bid. Now, because this stock has a spread, like you'll be able to market order it, for a short if you need to anyways. But like in general, like, you have a little bit more opportunity to squeeze. So I would add, I'd add the Zoomies to the watch list for a potential short. 5. Five's got a big breakdown setting up over here too. I think that one, let's put this one on the watch list too. With the big hairy butt on this one is that we don't know if it's going to have, we won't know if it's going to have liquidity, right? It's got 300,000 shares, so it should be okay. But like in general, sometimes this stock in particular will have a little bit of a spread. So far in the pre-market, it doesn't look like there is too much of one. So let's add that on watch for a potential ORB to the downside. Now this STNE is a big turd. It squeezed way back because this was like a big short squeeze essentially. That's nice. No SSR on that bad boy. Let's add that to the list too for potential ORB. This one's got enough range where we might be able to ORB this bad boy. Lou, Neuro turd. Now this one is a little bit interesting because they have, this had like a monster end of day push. A monster end of day push. And now you've got kind of a level that's setting up over here for the potential, right, red to green. I think this one actually may have a chance to get going today. I don't know anything about this company, but this is probably the right time, right place in terms of like doing a biotech stock. I definitely roll with this. If it goes red to green, like this thing will probably get cooking here. It looks like the float and the market cap are pretty tiny on this bad boy. Let's keep an eye on that. I think that's probably a prime time candidate for a red to green play. It had a good pump into the close. Now the issue on this is also going to be right. Like, do we have any liquidity? What's the spread like? That'll kind of gauge how much size we want to put in. Can I buy 10,000 shares of this, or can I buy 1,000 shares of this? That'll be important. Let's take a look here. Hood's a turd. Boom, 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 boom. Hey, so this thing may be actually a play for us to go right off at the open. So Firm had the big PR out yesterday with Amazon, and then it gapped up so much It really couldn't get moving the whole day. That happens quite a bit. Now, when you have something like that, oftentimes if it just bases out in a tight range like that, the next day it'll look dormant for a hot second, and then it'll start to push. When it takes out the previous day's highs, that can trigger a secondary setup. Now, there's two options on this one. You have either the red to green spot, that's entry one, or maybe a partial scale in. And then from there, right, you have the previous day's high. Now, even though this is like $100 stock, we saw it yesterday, it can move really, really fast. Like you can see here, like in terms of its intraday candles, right? Like when it starts to push, it can push. So I'm thinking two different spots on this. Number one, the red to green spot, and then that previous day's high. Now, it may just fade off for a good chunk of the day too, because it was up quite a bit, right? You're talking about a stock that's essentially doubled or, up 60, 70% in a handful of days. So it may not do that. I think the potential of it is there. We leave it alone unless it goes red to green or it takes out previous day's high. Now, if it starts to like pull back heavy, right? And you start to see it like kind of come into yesterday's lows, that can also be a spot where, we may come in and say like, okay, that's also a good location. Oh, fucking Dot Nation. Man, and by the way, there's some good looking cryptocurrencies popping around too. Okay, so on the upside, you got this ACIU. So this is a biotech stock. I mean, it has got a fairly clean, breakout setup that's setting up here. Yeah, I probably not my exact cup of tea, but it seems like we've been getting a little bit more juicy into some of these things. This one may have a chance. I would roll in and say like probably. You're probably going to go in like around the 13 spot. You can't chase it up, obviously, at the open. The best way to do these is like the best way to do these, I think personally, like when you see like these kind of like, little bios go, let them gap up and then see like when they start to round over the 9 EMA, when that EMA tightens up and then it breaks over the VWAP, that's, I think, probably the easiest, or not the easiest, but the lowest risk way to really kind of play these things. Because, at least I noticed anytime you chase a big candle on these, sometimes your fingers just slip and you chase a big candle on them. Anytime you chase a big candle on them, they just don't have the good follow through. Like it's a catch-22. So I'd probably let this thing pull back, let it grind for a second, and then go. If you take an ORB on this bad boy, you're going to be holding it for like a minute or two. I mean, that's just the way they're going these days. RHE is another one. This is former runner, right? Former momentum plays typically do have the ability to keep going. So like you want to always be mindful of like, okay, does this stock have a history of making runs? So like if you see this particular name, like see how like it went from like $3 to $30. So it does have, right, that kind of little bit extra juice on it from having run in the past. I think that's probably something that we add to the list. Apps beat on their earnings today. So this is a Digital Turbine. This was like the hottest IBD stock of the last, right? This is like the hottest IBD stock of the last, couple years, right? It went from like $5. Yeah, let's see. I would add this to the list. This is an earnings beat on some of these new stocks. They have a chance, especially this is kind of a bottoming pattern. You can see like this is a newer issue, right? Like it's really was dormant for a long time. Now you're going to start to round on this thing. If it holds up its gap over here, I think this one's, sponge worthy and we'll be able to roll with this one. Add that to the list. Hey man, this can is our nemesis, but This can is our nemesis. Well, like this has got a level here, like right at 10. That'll take it into the 11 spot right away. They also got a can gets ordered for 20,000 Bitcoin. I don't even know what that sounds pretty good to me. This one might go right up at the gate. It's got a PR out. That's nice. Let's add that to the list, man. That's a heater. All right, jump. All right, let's add a couple shorts if we need them to the watch list. Like I said, the market, it's possible the market may pull back a little bit. I think 2 stocks that we need to put on the watch list for potential shorts. This crowd, 227 to 290 run. Your 90 EMA is at 270. I actually do like this company and the overall stock quite a bit. But it only if it pulls back into this. I think for the next few days, right? If we need a short, we can roll with that. Now it's not an easy market to short lately, so you got to be careful. This Z scaler is another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days in a row. This is another one. If we need a short, I think we can roll in with it, and we'll see like what's going on in the hood on this. I do like that overall, look of it too. It's just for a day trade. I wouldn't be marrying this thing. Yes, I've been, I'm in all sorts of cryptocurrencies at the moment. Besides CAN, I think we need to put Riot. Riot is very, very close to breaking out here. The thing is, like, see how like you got these like kind of a little bit of rest days? Right before a breakout, a stock will rest like that, where you'll have like some inside days, or you'll have like some extreme rest days. So like, see like how you had this big trend in Riot, and then this is what you call an inside day. So after a big trend day, when the range tightens up so much and it like doesn't move at all and it's just dead, they call that an inside day range. The inside day works a lot better though if the range is really tight. So you can see here on Riot, the ATR on this, meaning the average true range. The average true range of how much it moves the last 14 days is 251. If you really see like the range on it yesterday, it was really just sitting around from like 37 to like 38. So the range got really tight on it. That's a classic sign of something that's ready to cook and book. And we want to be really rolling in on that. Especially if this thing starts to take out yesterday's range, just put in like I put an alert like right around 38. If it starts to push over there, I think we come in hot on this thing. We've already seen, right, Mara starting to lead the way. And, this one, like every dip is getting bought in it. See that? Like, see a trending. And then this is like that nice trend on it. Both of these, I think, for the coming, handful of weeks, especially while cryptocurrencies is strong, you want to be up in these things. They're going to be, I think they're going to be pretty good. Beyond that, I don't know if we really need a lot of stuff. We've got our regular traders like UPST, AMD, DDOG, mRNA, BNT. Those are daily traders for us at this point. Otherwise, I think everything else is a leave alone. Let's get this thing going today. I think Affirm, RHE, ACIU, RNXT, ZM, FIAV, STNE app. We got a whole host of these things that we're going to play. Hey, some of those NFT stocks, by the way, they were holding up pretty well, like Wiki and stuff like that. So you could, if you really need, be in that, and then add one more Etsy to the list, and we'll see what's going on. This had really nice 2 days of nice trends after an inside day. I think that'll be good. Who asked about Ford and eBay? Hey, Mr. Burnett, how are you? So the Ford chart is, to me, a little bit troubling because you're just making lower highs, lower highs, lower highs on this. I think it's got a lot of work to do before it's ready to buy. Just because it's in a downtrend, I think the eBay chart is much better. The swing trade entry was really a little bit more down here. In general, like you never want to buy a stock that is up like 4 or 5 days in a row for like at least a multi-day hold. So just something to kind of be mindful of, like when you're looking at these things. Good. Now let's just take a look at some cryptos here. There's a couple of these that have been added. There's some good ones though. I think this dot is really ready to roll. I let this thing pull back a little bit intraday. You can see this is like a nice breakout pullback. You're right. We've been knee deep in this SOL, but I'm running out of fucking shares. I had like a couple thousand of these things at 77. Now I'm running out of them. I got like just a few hundred left. These move a lot cleaner than stocks right now. Whatever's trending is what moves the best, So I think that's going to be hot. This BNB had a really nice move. You're like sitting on the 20 SMA. If it can remount and hold, the 9, I think that was going to be pretty good. And then this XTZ, it still needs to base out for a few days. The XTZ's got their own. So one of the reasons that SOL is running so hard, I used to trade this thing at $2 too, right? Damn it. They're one of the reasons this thing is running so hot is right. They got their own NFT marketplace, and I believe XTZ has one also, or is adding one. So I think that that's probably something to keep an eye on. But I think dots, waves, and then dips on SOL are still the way to go. I did add this morning ETH. You can see you got a nice flag pattern over here. You guys really should. If you're not trading this stuff, you got to. They're cleaner than stocks right now. And there's more volatility, more range. Like you got to be in this. Like if you're farting around trying to trade Apple or some fucking Google, when you got things like this just like coming in so hot, then you've got to allocate some resources to something a little bit different. Not all, right? This is not like you don't put all your money in this or anything like that, but this is like a portion of like what you do. So just something to kind of be mindful of as you're going through. It's a good thing. So that's the list. I'm sticking to it. You were cooking and booking today. I'm holding waves and SOL right now. And ETH we added this morning, and then looking for some dips in this dot, and then we'll see what's up in the hood, guys. These are really the last days of this. I think we're in September almost, so let's. I think markets should speed up a little bit after Labor Day. It's still so we still got probably about a week of slowness before things get juicy. Cool. That's the list. I'm sticking to it. Yes, by the way, guys, yes, all old students. We start boot camp class right in like a week. Anybody that's ever taken a boot camp class is always welcome to come back into class. It's lifetime access. I encourage you to retake class as many times as you want, as many times as you can, because it's the best way to build that muscle memory that you need to really get good at this kind of stuff. This is just right, like patterns are patterns, but it's just a game of repetitions in the end. Gee, apps, man, this apps is not bad. Apps. Fucking Zoom. Good. I love you guys. Peace in the Middle East, my friend.